All right, here we go with part two. I think we'll be able to finish it all up in this part, and it shouldn't be quite as long. Here's an interesting maximum depth of field shot of a day in the park by the Oregon Pavilion. The catch here is we've got several stories, all competing for attention, none of them strong enough by itself to make our shot. Let me show you what I mean by cropping out several of them. First, we've got an interesting story here of the shadow on the pavement. With a slightly different crop, this could make a really interesting image if this were all sharp. We've got another interesting image and story over here with the guy walking his dog in the park. But we've really got a fascinating story here with a slightly different perspective of the camera, an interesting story of the two people sitting alone in a completely empty pavilion with nothing on the stage. What are they talking about? What are they waiting for? What's about to happen that we don't know? Or what has happened that we don't know? There's all kinds of interesting stuff that could come from that particular view of this scene. So you've got a whole lot of things going on here, all of them with reasonable potential, but none of them fully realized because it's just too busy. So when you see a shot and you see all of these different things, just remember, the image doesn't get better by adding more good stuff to it. It just gets more confusing. The image gets better by eliminating the distracting stuff from at least one of those good portions that you've identified. So here we've got a number of options, but none of them have been taken. So it does meet the depth of field requirements, so you got credit for that. But the next time, really think about what's in your shot. Pick something. If you've got 3 shots like we did here, take all 3. Get them all captured. Well, it's a set of rabbit ears. I haven't seen those for years. Designed to bring in a better television signal. I wonder if it really works. It's sitting on something Sony, whether it's a pad or a TV or a computer. But the shot doesn't really tell us anything. Yes, it's supposed to be minimum depth of field. And yes, it is minimum depth of field. Congratulations. You did that. This time, as I said earlier, you'll get credit for it. But next time, think about the story behind your subject. Make that photograph tell us something. Remember, photography is like visual philosophy. It's your essay on your take of the world around you. So that means you have to have a take on it. All of the assignments that we give, the technical assignments, will all be things you will use for those other shots. You may have a shot where the only issue is depth of field in order to tell your story. This assignment is to give you the chance to practice doing that. So do that. Again, cute rabbit ears, but there's no real photograph there. And then we have these. Yes, we have narrow depth of field. The problem is both of these shots are narrow depth of field. Maximum depth of field does not mean narrow depth of field farther out in your shot. And that's what you've got here. You've got this part is sharp, but this part isn't. A full depth of field would be something that would include the whole thing. Over on this side, you've got narrow depth of field again. This foreground is in focus. The background is not. But even if it were all in focus, what is it? And what is the story that's contained in it? This is a little far away to make that choice. From here, it looks like a turkey. I don't know what it is, actually. So let's try another. Oh, goody. Look into my eyes. Watch the flame. Relax. Sleep. Remember this mantra. This is a wonderful photograph. This is a wonderful photograph. Well, maybe that would work if the flame were flickering. If this were a cinematograph where the shot was still and the flame was moving, maybe. As it is now, it's like the lead into a story without telling the story. And in any case, what we really have is too much nothingness in here, a little too much black. If we moved in just into there, we'd have a better view of things. Now you've got all of these parts really relating to one another compositionally. At least it ties together a little better. But again, by itself is clever. You can certainly learn one thing, and that is that there's enough exposure in a lighter flame to give you some detail. But we need more. And what is this flare from? I would definitely get rid of that flare. So again, shallow depth of field. This background is out of focus. Cool. The foreground is focused. Yeah. But think about where this is going. It's a clever shot. It's a clever start. It would be an interesting lead-in to a photo feature. But by itself, it doesn't tell us anything. Well, and here again, we've got two of exactly the same shot. The crop is the same. The camera hasn't moved. The only thing that's different is the aperture setting. So are these two different images as the instructions requested? I don't think so. And in any case, from either one of them, is it a photograph that grabs you? Is there a story here? Is there a message here? What are you saying about this computer, about this laptop? It's got a keyboard. Oh, there's a news flash. So what else can we learn from looking at this? I think it met the requirements technically. In future assignments, that would mean it would get an average grade. So think about these. Please think about these. If you're here to make your photography better, then don't just take the literal technical part of the instructions, do that, and think, cool, now I can go home. It's all over. Oh boy, it's back. I thought mercifully that had been moved for a while, but apparently it is back to us now. That's clever. It's a clever take on that original photograph from New York. But again, this is the kind of thing that you would put in your scrapbook, but it doesn't tell us much about anything. Maybe a cleverer shot would be with people gathering around, looking up at it, and then you would at least realize that these are very big figures, massively more than life size. But with this perspective, they could be real life size. It could be real people. What is with this? Come on. Time to turn off the toy stuff. Your camera will be recording this internally for you on the metadata, so you don't need this. And it's very difficult to try to get rid of it. I'm not sure even our Content Aware Phil will do it. Let's give it a try, just to see. Okay, so we've got our selection. We're going to hit the delete key. We'll say okay. See, it blurred a huge portion of that. It actually did an amazingly good job, all things considered. But here's what it was before, and here's what it is now. It picked up this blur area and put it over the rest of it. It's still better than having it there, but not by a lot. And again, what is this really telling us? What's it about? Is it about the Midway with some people kissing in front of it, or is it about a kissing statue with the Midway in back? This is splitting the difference, trying to tell both stories, and isn't pulling it off particularly well. So get serious with this. This can be a fun shot. This is a fun thing to look at. So go out and play with it. Make it something really fascinating. One more timestamp. This one may actually come out a little better because the background is a little easier for us to deal with, I think. Let's take that, hit delete, say okay. Well, that one's not bad. We got rid of that one fairly easily. That's considerably better. The background was easier for the program to work with. But where's our shot in here? Well, clearly this is the main subject. Shallow depth of field, everything else is soft. This is the subject. Remember what I said. When you've got your subject in mind, ask yourself, what does the rest of the picture do for it? Does it help it? Does it distract from it? Does it dilute the main story? Probably a different angle, maybe coming around clockwise on this and aiming back at it would give it a better background. Maybe these out of focus in the background would be better. Here, the background is taking this strong diagonal movement and trying to fight it with this vertical movement of the tree and the bell post. So that's a problem for you. This one I'm not sure we can fix with cropping, but maybe we can make it a little better. Maybe at least we can break that strong horizontal that's fighting this line. Perhaps if we took this background down a little. Let's see. Let's do a multiply layer. Well, maybe. It's going to take some very careful mask, so we'll do a layer mask. And this is going to be one of those occasions where using the layer mask really is better than the trying to erase it. So I'm going to hit the X key to change foreground and background because I need a black brush. I'll select a brush, turn my opacity down just a little bit, make sure that I've got a soft brush so it's at minimum hardness. Now I'm going to reduce the brush size using the bracket keys. See what I can do to pick up on this. Now I'm doing this fast, so I'm likely to pick up more than I wanted here, but there's two examples of it going off of the end. And that's going to give us a good reason to be using the layer mask instead of a delete key. Because with that layer mask, now in this area where I missed it and overshot, now with the X key I'll change back to the white brush. And paint that back. Paint it back to the original. Now I'll change back to black. X key again. And we can make that flower stick out a little bit better. Now, here's something I want you to watch carefully. Now, let's look at this icon. Where it's black or gray is where we are looking through to the background. Where it is white, we're looking at this top image, the darkened one. So what if we softened this? We should still be looking through to the sharp flower. In order to work on this layer, we need to click here. Watch these frames. The frame has gone away. Now, if I just come back here on the layer, the frame doesn't reappear unless I clicked in the box. So now I can work on this layer just like a normal layer. So I can come to the filter, pick up my blur, lens blur, and I want to add to that a little bit. I'm going to play with those specular highlights a little more. Say OK. And now I've blurred that background even more. What I would need to do now is come back, access this again by clicking on it. My little frames come back. And now with a white brush, I can go around the edges of it that I've missed a little bit. And clean that up. But with that, I can create even more depth of field. That's something you can play with. Well, this is an interesting graphic shot of the freeway, pulling out some abstract parts of it. It's especially interesting with the do not enter sign here. I assume this is a ramp coming up onto the freeway. Here's the front part, the tractor part of a big rig on this part of the ramps. We really don't need the border. And so the first thing I would do is get rid of those. Well, being spastic today. And then I'm going to pull a little of that sky out while I'm at it to tighten it up a little. Now this really stands out, this red sign, do not enter sign. Very interesting concept. Very interesting. I think I would have liked it better without the truck. Now, could we take that truck out? Of course. This is Photoshop. All we'd have to do, in this case, I probably would try to mask this a little bit just so it was cleaner along these sharp edges. And then just pick up this blue color and paint over it. And that truck would be gone. So that might make it even more interesting, where now the only thing to really see as operating with this story is this do not enter thing. You've got a highway with a do not enter sign on it, and that could be interesting. Okay, so we're ahead of the game here. You want to see me do this? I'll do it. I'm going to get in tight. I'm going to use the polygon lasso just because it's a little faster for me at this point. Okay, so we've got the top part. Now, if I hold down the Shift key, I can add to it. And you'll notice, see the little icon there? I'm going to put it up here so you can see it. If when I hold the Shift key down, you get a little plus symbol. If I want to take away from that, I'll hold the Alt key down, and you can see the little minus signal come up. It's a little hard to see there. Let me put it against this blue. But in this case, I want to add to that selection. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key. I'm only going to do one of these for time's sake, and that will show you how to do the rest of it. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do another one. Okay, then I would do both of these. Now what I'll do is go in with the eyedropper, pick up this blue, the sky blue, load that into a paintbrush. I need it to be 100%. Might as well use a big brush because this is all masked. Remember, whatever we've selected is the only thing we can work on. The rest of it is masked off. So there, my truck is gone. And now I need to pick up those other little parts of it. So that would be incredibly simple to take off. If I deselect this, get rid of the marching ants, you can see it. So this would be really kind of a fascinating work to deal with. Let's bring it back down to normal size. And there we are. We still have these two little openings to get rid of. But that now creates a different shot, and that do not enter sign now becomes the main eye-grabbing point of attention. Well, this is an interesting shot. This is the kind of shot that sort of breaks the rule because the story of it carries the day. This shot is chaotic, and we've got multiple potential shots in it. So we could have a shot in here, that itself is a really nice shot. We could make a shot over here. That's a pretty cool shot. And as a vertical, this can be an interesting shot. So we've got several photographs within this photograph, any one of which could make a really pretty nice shot. But taken all together, what it does do is it does show the chaos of all of this. Some are just sitting there being calm. Others are taking off, flying in all different directions. So that, along with the crashing water, does make a pretty interesting story. So it does sort of work. It's minimum depth of field. You've got selective focus here. This was a good choice for this shot because you can see the water, the surf in the background, but it's soft. It doesn't really interfere. Personally, for me, and this is a stylistic thing, I like that first version I gave you. I think that's a really nice shot. So that brings us to the end of this. In the next assignments, you're going to have another a digital depth of field assignment coming up, which you probably are already into. After that, we're going to have a couple of motion assignments. You need to listen carefully to this. Just because you are playing with variations of a technical control of your image does not mean to sleepwalk through it and just show me you can change shutter speeds or change apertures. I want every shot you take to be, in your mind, an attempt to make a really good photograph where you're doing what it takes. This would be a really good photograph. This would be a nice one about these gulls. And then I'll leave you with something that stunned me when I found it out, not coming from here. And that is, with all of these gulls around, there is no gull species that is properly known as a sea gull. We have gray gulls and California gulls and a couple of other kind of gulls floating around here. But none of them are seagulls. That's just a general common name they've been given by folks because they're normally around the sea. Okay. With that bit of trivia, I'll see you next time. Do some good shooting out there.